Oh, welcome back to nighttime.
And it's the finale. What a season it's been.
What a season.
We've had a lot of fun. We hope you've had some fun too. And we've got one last game to talk about. It's the National Championship. Let's get right into it.
Yeah, so Michigan wins their national championship 69-63 over the UConn Huskies. Michigan, their first national championship since 1989, their second in program history. Offensively, what was the word you used?
It was a catastrophe.
Yeah, not much flow in this game for either offenses. UConn just shooting 30% from the field. Michigan only 38%. Three-point land, it was even uglier. Michigan only hit 2 threes, both pretty early on, 2 of 15, and then UConn 9 of 33. They just couldn't get a big shot to fall, especially late in the game, and just ugly on offense.
Yeah, from both sides, like you mentioned. The fact that Michigan was coming into this game rolling. Every single game coming into this one, they had scored 90-plus points. They were on the verge of a record. While they did set it, it wasn't the way you kind of expected it to happen, especially given the fact that what they were doing. It felt like anybody they wanted could score any time in the first 5 games, and in the 6th one, felt like there were some struggles, but Elliot Cadeau stepped up in big moments, and just overall, this Michigan team came up big when they needed to. UConn can't be said the same.
Yeah, I mean, in this game, there's just no flow, and it's a national championship, you know. Obviously, it's going to be expected. The two teams feeling each other out. It's a massive game, but I don't know. It wasn't a good watch, in my opinion.
Yeah, and there's always going to be nerves, right? Because of the fact that, like you mentioned, it's the national championship game. Everybody's kind of just nobody wants to make the game losing play, right? You don't want anything that you do to end up losing your team the national championship. So defense is a little bit tighter. Maybe offensively, you're again just feeling the nerves. But man, Michigan walks away with their second national championship in school history, and what a win for a team that has been dominant all season long.
Yeah, congrats to Michigan. It was a dominant run, but let's go over to the couch with our guests today, Blake Bogue and Austin Suarez. We're going to talk some national championship with these guys. What did you guys see in this national title game? Starting with you, Blake.
Well, guys, first off, thank you so much for having me back on the show. And to start, one of my main takeaways from this game is, like you guys mentioned, both these teams struggled a lot from the offensive end. Both teams shot below 30% from 3. Both teams shot below 40% from the field, and it was much more of a front court story, kind of like we expected. Michigan got out-rebounded by UConn in this game, 46-39, which I personally did not expect, and I think that's very key to the fact that Terrace Reed kept Ademara in check down low. For the center battle, Ademara had 8 points and 4 boards, a very quiet game for him. I think that played a big part in this, and the entire tournament in all 6 games, UConn held their opponents to under 75 points, very big accomplishment for them defensively. And so I think we could have kind of expected that from them, despite the fact that Michigan scored 90-plus in every game leading up to this. And again, both these teams did seem like they had the jitters kind of going into this game. I mean, it's a big game. We should expect that. But in the end, I feel like it came down to the depth of Michigan, and that prevailed. It was just too much for UConn. They are the deeper team, and they closed this game out with big shots like the big 3 from Trey McKinney that put them up 9 late in the game. And, of course, their point guard, Elliot Cadeau, who played such a crucial role in this game. And it's such a good story for him coming over from North Carolina, where he had his fair share of struggles, to now being a key piece in this game for the Wolverines to take home the trophy.
Yeah, we talked about the depth battle last show, talking about both teams have very good depth, and we thought Michigan would have the edge just by how many guys they had could score. UConn only 9 points off the bench in this game, so kind of makes sense there.
Yeah, you can get it from any place you want it for Michigan. Like, Cadeau was the leading scorer throughout the course of the Final Four for them, and just in general was the overall best player in the Final Four. But I want to hear from you, Austin. What were your thoughts on this game?
You know, Blake hit it very perfectly right on the head. It was horrible offensive play. You know, both teams shooting below 40%. But, you know, we've come to learn that Michigan is a second-half team. That first-round game against Howard, they were only up 4 points going into the first half. After the game ended, they ended up winning, I believe it was 101-80. I just want to talk about the Elliot Cadeau show, however. His championship game impact isn't like any other. 19 points, which was a game high for anyone in the national championship. 2 steals, 2 assists, 8 from 9 for from the free throw line, which is, you know, the biggest story was the free throw line, given that they went 25 from 28 on the line. But he also scored 12 points in the second half. Clutch when it matters most, gentlemen. Other than the UConn's horrible offensive collapse, Elliot Cadeau ran the entire show.
want to get thoughts from you guys at the couch first. Where do you think that this Michigan team ranks in terms of the last 10 national champions?
So for me, third was the spot that I had them in because this team was very dominant for most of their tournament run. But when they got to this game, I think some of their flaws for sure were exposed, and this was a relatively tight game most of the entire way. And so for me, they don't rank up there with the truly dominant teams, but it is still for sure high because of the dominance before the national title game.
Yeah, it was a very dominant run. Double-digit wins over Howard, St. Louis, Alabama, Tennessee, Arizona. Those are all very good teams, some of them. But then UConn, obviously, in the national championship was, a poor shooting fest in this one. But they came out victorious. They won games in different ways, and that's what you need to see out of a national champion.
Yeah, in my opinion, I'd probably put them around third or fourth, just like Blake was saying. I think that this team probably rivals other teams like, let's say, a 2018 Villanova or a 2024 UConn. UConn going for a back-to-back in that scenario. And this team was just overall like one of the best teams we've seen from start to finish in the season. At some point, we thought they could maybe go undefeated. They lose to Wisconsin, they trip up against Duke, and then again against Purdue in the Big Ten tournament. But overall, this team looked like one of the most dominant teams throughout the course of the whole college basketball season. They were either 1, 2, or 3 throughout every part of it. And I want to get Austin Suarez back in here. Where do you think that they rank?
Well, gentlemen, I hate to disagree with all of y'all, but sticking with number 3, we're going to go with the third lowest. I think this team ranks at like almost nearly a number 7. Listen, guys, Michigan won with defense, rebounding, free throws, and paint scoring. Not with elite three-point shooting, fast-paced offense, and that highlight offense we're used to seeing in March Madness. In my opinion, Michigan doesn't feel like a dominant champion because they didn't overwhelm teams. They outlasted them. In a tournament built on chaos, they were the most adaptable, toughest, and most complete team. That doesn't always look pretty, but it wins championships. That's why, despite the ranking I've given them, it's very important to not discredit what the program's been able to accomplish.
Yeah, I think that I have to push back a little bit on it just because of the fact that besides this game, they'd won every single game that they played in the tournament by double digits. So I feel like that is
dominant.
If we're going to go dominant, I think that winning every game by double digits and scoring 90 points in every single game is a term that you can use.
The roster they had in the regular season, they had 37-3, won Big Ten in the regular season, which is one of the best, if not the best, conference in college basketball.
Yeah. I think that third lowest is a little low, but it's all opinion based. So
that's just in terms of the last 10 years, in my opinion. They don't stack up with 2016 Villanova, 2017 North Carolina, even 23 and 24 UConn. That's just in terms of the last 10 champions where I would rank them. Not to say that they aren't dominant champions.
Yeah. Well,
let's
move on to the next question.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has opinions.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Who is our next opinion, the college basketball player of the year? You go first.
All right, well, I am stealing an answer here and taking Cameron Boozer. I think that just throughout the course of the regular season, being able to average a double-double and 22 points and 10 rebounds and just leading that Duke team to what was the #1 overall seed in the whole tournament, and just throughout the course of the year, they were with Arizona and Michigan as one of those top 3 teams and just consistently dominating ACC play. It just felt like he was the driver of every single thing that they were doing on offense. I don't know that just personally his game translates to the NBA the best. I feel like he's a little bit undersized, and that could be a reason why he would maybe drop to 3, 4, maybe even 5 in the NBA draft. But overall, I think that he dominated all of college basketball. And I want to go back to the couch here. Who do you guys think was the college basketball player of the year?
Well, for me, that was my pick as well, Cameron Boozer. And I think that you nailed most of those points very well. He had a great season, and he's a threat down low. He set the Duke freshman record for rebounds with 389, and that is no joke with all the guys who have gone to Duke. And I think that he had a great season, and he was kind of the driving force of their season. And if his brother had not thrown away the game in the Elite Eight, then he could have had his one shining moment in the Final Four, which may have bumped him up the list for just signature players this season.
Austin, who do you think was the player of the year?
Well, there are many great players I can award this prestigious nighttime college basketball player of the year award to.
Extremely prestigious.
It may or may not turn some heads when I say this. Yaxel Lindenborg. I mean, this is truly a balanced player. This is someone you want on your championship roster. First and foremost, Yaxel demonstrates an impeccable two-way dominance, defense, rebounds, shooting. He can guard multiple positions. He can put immense pressure on defenses and draw fouls. He wasn't just productive, guys. He was controlling games. This season, Yaxel was also a physical mismatch nightmare. Too strong for wings, but too quick for bigs. Opponents had no defining matchup answer, and therefore, they weren't able to outlast Michigan and even Michigan's most toughest bouts. So when you ask me who the best college basketball player was this year, I'm going to have to go Yaxel because of the impeccable two-way play.
Yeah, no doubt. And he showed it all March and ended up winning a national championship. Mine was A.J. DeBansta, but we're running out of time. Next segment, some UCF baseball and some UCF softball with Edgar and Kathleen.
We'll be right back for your show. For now, let me give you a quick rundown of what the Hitting the Field Network has planned for you. My name is Edgar Rodriguez, and I'm the host of Hitting the Field Season 22, live streaming every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern. There, you'll find me and our expert guests talking about everything in the wide world of sports. On Tuesday, get ready because it's Season 10 of Nighttime. Hosted by Andrew, Greig, and Joe Geiger, Nighttime keeps you up to date on everything happening in the world of college sports and UCF athletics. Moving on to Wednesday, we have Season 8 of The Combine, hosted by our very own Kathleen Moore. This podcast takes a deep and technical dive into everything NFL, and you won't want to miss that. On Thursday, we go live with Bets, where our Bets boys, Ben Huber, Augie Aronson, and Scott Harris, will give their expert opinion that might just make you some money. On Friday, Season 4 of Girls Got Game takes over with only the hottest topics in women's sports, hosted by none other than Katie Sue Christensen and Mia Flores. And to round out the week, Season 3 of HTFC comes on Saturday, hosted by Octavius Lawrence and Santiago Molina. Soccer never stops, and HTFC will be your stop for everything in the world of football. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok, where you can find non-stop additional content, as well as stay updated on all HTFN news. Lastly, leave a like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe to the Hitting the Field Network on YouTube. That's all I got. I'm Edgar Rodriguez signing off. Enjoy the rest of your show.
And welcome back to the desk. Like I said, we're going to talk some UCF baseball and softball. Both of them ranked in the top 25 as of right now, but we're going to start with baseball, sitting at 20-12, 10-5 in the Big 12, down to third in the conference rankings after a tough weekend series at Kansas.
Yeah, tough to say the least, especially for the offense in this one. It felt like after taking some losses to pitching, it might be pitching that struggled over the course of the weekend, but it really wasn't. Yeah. The pitching was stable at the very least, and the offense just couldn't get anything going. The team leader in average to that point did not get a single hit in John Smith III, and it's unfortunate. Sometimes the bats just slump for a weekend, so I don't think it's anything to get too nervous about, especially throughout the course of a relatively large sample size over 30 games. The offense hasn't looked any semblance of what it was over this past weekend, but it's definitely a little bit nerve-wracking if you are a UCF fan.
Yeah, UCF came in to conference play red hot with the bats. They were 4 for 4. Had 2 sweeps, beat West Virginia, and the offense was pretty much the main reason that the offense was absolutely cooking. But Edgar, we're going to bring in you for this one. You had a tough baseball weekend with the Yankees, and now UCF getting swept 0 for 6. What went wrong against Kansas?
Andrew mentioned it, Joe. There's no need to mention the Yankees. But Andrew mentioned it. No run support. The pitching. It's not like we were giving up a bunch of runs, right? All the 3 games were very close against Kansas. But yeah, I mean, guys that who you are expected, right, to have good games, guys like Zach Skinner, guys like Williamson, guys like Damas Ross, they still pulled their weight somewhat, but you mentioned him. John Smith III did not have his greatest weekend. That is no secret. But, when we talk about overreacting, I'm cautious against that. This is a team that went 9-21 last season, already 10-5 to start Big 12 conference play. So yes, it's not ideal, but you'll want to bounce back as the Knights head back home.
Yeah, do you think that they can stay consistent with the pitching? Is another question in there as well, to be able to keep up another series win possibly this weekend at home.
Yeah, well, again, pitching, it's not like it was horrible, but they have to, reset, right? You have JU in the week ahead of the Cincy series at home. So again, it's all about resetting, getting their bearings back. And look, guys like Chris Sosnowski, guys like Sean Boom as well in the bullpen, doing great as well this weekend, not giving up not giving up a run, giving up a few hits here and there. But again, Kansas was a formidable team as well. And again, we cannot forget, the sweep against OSU, right? The series win against West Virginia. This team has had much more highs than lows. So I would not overreact.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think the fact that there has been such a stretch of good play throughout the course of the season, it leads to a little bit of overreaction, but I don't think that there's any reason for
baseball is full of hot streaks and slumps. You don't want to get in too big of a slump, but we were in a very big hot stretch there for Big 12 play. I mean, they were on fire, and the bats are going to cool off eventually. They're not going to average 8 runs a game every weekend, but unfortunately, against Kansas, it just didn't happen. But, as Edgar said, they will bounce back. Jacksonville and Cincinnati this upcoming week. And let's move along to some softball because they had a much better weekend. They beat Arizona State in the series, a ranked win against Arizona State.
Yeah, ranked series win against Arizona State. They go on the road to Tempe and get a ranked series win, as we mentioned, number 23 Arizona State. And it just feels like the hype around softball is extremely warranted. And we bring in Kathleen Moore to talk about softball. How are you feeling about this Knights team so far? I mean, they are 10-7-1 in Big 12 play, 32-11-1 overall, which is one of the best teams on campus.
Right, absolutely. UCF softball has been such a joy to watch over the last few weeks, and this series is just another example of that. I'm gonna put that first game of this series, the 1-7 loss, jet lag. That was jet lag, Edgar. Come on now.
I mean, and they swept the under the rug real quick.
They really did. I mean, all doubts were put aside because there was an 8-1 game 2 and a 4-3 game 3. Isabella Vega got hot. Ava Stewie, the freshman, has had an excellent couple of games. Every time she's put in the circle, she's performing at the top of her game. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, softball is extremely exciting for the UCF Knights, especially this season. We're just stacking weeks where this team is in the top 25, maybe even in the top 20 after this week. But I want to go back to you for some of the top performers. Who are we really looking at when we're watching this UCF softball team?
So you want to look at Sierra Humphreys. She has had such an incredible season thus far. I think she's 10 home runs on the season, maybe more at this point. Just in this past series, she broke the UCF softball home run record in a season. So we have 57 as a team thus far, and I expect even more to be coming soon. But then you also look at players like Beth Damon, the catcher. Her bat has been hot all season. She's been incredible. She's been making great plays from behind the plate. And obviously, Isabella Vega, you want to look at her too. The former freshman All-American just continues to stun week after week after week.
Yeah, I mean, I want to go back to her just a little bit more, and you can give us a little bit more detail on this. We didn't get to cover it the week that it happened, but she threw a perfect game. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Wow. I mean, just what a moment for her. That is 4 perfect games in UCF softball history, and Isabella Vega gets to put her name in that legacy, which is so incredible. I was talking with Coach Bear actually a few weeks ago when that happened, and she said, she noticed it, and she didn't want to say anything. She didn't know if anyone else had noticed it yet.
You never say anything.
No, you never say a word, but she wasn't sure if Issa had noticed yet.
Right.
And as soon as she threw the last out, the energy on the field, I saw the video, it was incredible.
I don't think UCF softball has ever had, well, in recent history anyway, such a balanced team. The amount of power on this team, right, all throughout the order. If you're not hitting home runs, you're hitting extra base hits. You talk about Beth Damon behind the plate as well, hitting homers, getting people out at second base as well. The pitching being almost immaculate. Again, ASU, a ranked series win again.
It's huge.
This team is on fire.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, it's not only the pitching, but also the bats. 6 out of the 9 people batting have a average over 300 for this Knights team. And like you said, it's not even just hitting for average. It is those extra base hits. It's the home runs, the UCF breaking their record for total home runs in a season. It's everything this season for the Knights. And there's a possibility that there's some talk about regionals, maybe even hosting a regional.
Kathleen, you mentioned that we could host a regional. Do you still see that happening?
I definitely still see this happening. If the Knights keep playing the way that they are, and you look at the schedule ahead, the hard part of Big 12 play really is behind us. I mean, you had Texas Tech, you had Baylor, you had Arizona State. what's next, really?
Right. You had OSU to kick off Big 12 play as well, a huge series win to kick off their season. I think you're right. And I think those series losses against Baylor and Texas Tech will actually end up doing the team well in the long run. They were able to experience that high level of competition this season in the Big 12. It's a stacked conference. So.
Yes, and Coach Bear does a good job of doing that with planning their schedule, too. She wants to work out the kinks early, before conference play even begins, so that they can be ready for situations like this, put themselves in the best spot.
Yeah, well, what is next for the Knights is the fact that they play Kansas in this upcoming weekend, and then they have a 2-game series against the University of Florida, number 5 Gators, and then a series against Iowa State to close out Big 12 play. But that is all the time that we have for baseball and softball. We're going to do a little bit of a football check-in right after this.
It's that time of year again, and another NASCAR Cup Series season means another edition of the Daytona 500. Once again, fans flooded the Daytona International Speedway last weekend to cheer on their favorite drivers. And their not-so-favorite drivers, too. And as always, our HGF Bets crew was fired up to make their picks.
Gentlemen, start your engine!
But let's take a look at how those predictions played out. Augie took a look at the reigning Daytona 500 champ and thought, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I'd choose another outright race winner in the number 24 car, William Byron.
Coming off of 2 straight wins in the 500, Byron had a shot at being the first driver ever to make it 3 in a row.
Look, he's going to be the first person to make history.
But unfortunately for Augie, the 24 car had a quiet race, crossing the finish line in 12th place with 0 laps led. Scott, on the other hand, had his sights set on none other than
Ross Chastain,
hoping he would finish top 3. The Melon Man raced a promising drive, trading the number 1 spot throughout the 500 miles and leading a total of 12 laps. But to Scott's disappointment, he finished far from the top 3 as the 20th driver to take the checkered flag, meaning that the desk was now 0 for 2. But luckily, Ben decided to put his money on an absolute veteran.
For my pick, like I said, Battle of the Bush, I got Kyle Busch to finish top 3.
Another driver hungry for his first Daytona 500 win, Kyle Busch rocketed his car to pole position in qualifying, starting the big race in first. The number 8 car was clearly on a mission, racing at the front of the pack and leading 19 laps on the night. But even after finishing the second stage in 4th, Busch could only manage a 15th place finish in the end. So who should the boys have placed their bets on? How about the man who led only 1 lap the entire race? That's right, Tyler Reddick's number 45 car started the final lap in 4th place and steered past the chaos to cross the finish line in first. Reddick's heroic last lap pass was followed up with some well-deserved burnouts as the 2311 Racing team celebrated their first win in the Great American Race. Take a bow, Tyler Reddick. You are now a Daytona 500 champion.
and welcome back to the final segment of the season.
Man.
Tragic stuff, but it is college football. We are 135 days away from the start of the season. That is week 0. That game in Ireland, that's the one you want to talk about, right?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
A game for the ages, some are saying, or maybe not so, but TCU versus UNC is the game that I'm alluding to. I think that it's just going to be a good game all around. I like the fact that you get to start the season in Dublin, Ireland. It's always fun getting to see the pub's reactions and all the beers flying around, and also the start of Bill Belichick's second ever season as a college football coach, right? There's a lot of debate whether he was the better coach or whether Tom Brady was the better player. I feel like that might have been settled by now, but at least trying to put this UNC program back on the right track, and I'm excited to see if he can do it with a Power 4 win starting against TCU. So for week 0, for my money, I think that, or for week 1, that is going to be the best game on the calendar.
Yeah, that was a rough game for North Carolina last year. They went down, scored right away, and then TCU pretty much handed it to them after that.
Yeah.
In a tough year for North Carolina. A pretty mid-year for TCU as well. Both of them kind of trying to get back on track. Bill Belichick, definitely an interesting hire. And people are still skeptical of it. We'll see what he does in year 2.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't the first season that Bill Belichick might have wanted, especially if he's going for the legacy of being better than Tom Brady as a coach. I don't think that was doing him any favors. But with that being said, we'd like to welcome in our guests for this segment, Matt Holbrook and Austin Lamanna. What games are you guys excited for in week 1?
I'll start off with, for week 1, clearly this is Clemson at LSU. But Clemson didn't sign a single 5-star recruit this season. And I think if you know Darbo Sweeney and what he's about, he doesn't use the transfer portal too all well. But LSU, this is the big story. Lane Kiffin, of course, coming over from Ole Miss, bringing Charlie Weiss Jr. with him, a bunch of transfers with him. LSU is probably the best job there is in college football, and that's why Lane Kiffin did what he did. But this is going to be a great game. Clemson, 7-6 last year, their worst season since 2010. 2010. And that's bad for Dabo Swinney, especially since he doesn't use the transfer portal. But in the ACC, which for my money is the weakest Power 4 conference there is, they are one of the better programs in that conference. But for LSU and Clemson, this is a great game. And Blake Baker, they were able to retain him. LSU, he coached one of the better defenses in college football last season. And this is gonna be a great matchup. And LSU and Clemson, it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, especially in Baton Rouge, you get the energy of
Death Valley game.
Death Valley game. We've seen this game a couple of times now. We saw it last year. It wasn't a very good game, but hopefully this game can be extremely exciting, especially if nothing else for the storylines, right? You have Lane Kiffin for LSU. You have the fact that it's going to be his first ever home game. If he loses this game, there's going to be some questions early, especially given the fact that what they did in the transfer portal, right? They have a great recruiting class, as they always do, and then they were the #1 transfer portal class, got a bunch of 5-stars. So we'll see. I think Clemson has definitely had a disadvantage to this game, but want to throw it back to Austin, right?
Yeah,
what do you think is the best game on week 1 schedule?
I'm going to be honest. I was actually going to say before Matt started talking, but LSU. I think that is easily the best game. Personally, I think that's the best game, but there's a game that I'm actually personally really excited for, and that's Boise State versus Oregon. Listen, everybody knows about Boise State's season last year. Good, but could have been much better. Obviously, we know about the now discontinued, as me and Matt were joking about earlier, the now discontinued LA Bowl, losing to Washington 38-10, that just hurts to say out loud.
They rested a lot of their players, but yeah, first season in the Pac-12 for Boise State, and yeah, it's going to be incredible. Austin, go on.
1,000%, Matt. I'm really excited for that because Boise State, they're not, listen, we can talk about their season last year all day long, but they're really leveling up right now. As Matt just said, being in the Pac-12, they paid a $17 million, I kid you not, breakup fee to be in this conference. And by being in this conference right here, they have a great chance, if they dominate this whole season, mind you, if they dominate the whole season.
Yeah, they're probably the best team within the Pac-12 right now at the moment. Obviously quite new, but you have like San Diego State and all that. But Boise State's obviously kind of, for your money, one of the better Group of 6 programs there is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now being in the Power 5 conference and all that, 1,000%. And I could not agree with you more on that. But I'm really excited for this. And listen, Oregon, okay, Oregon, they had a great season last year. Dante Moore, 13-2, that was great. But Matt, listen, you said this beautifully earlier when we were off air, beautifully. He said,
Did I?
Oregon has a, well, how do you say it? It was a
again,
low reward, high risk game.
Well, as you know, Oregon is probably a top 10 college football program there is. Losing to Boise State, that hurts your chances at getting a college football playoff spot or a high seed within the 12-team.
Hurts the optics for the whole season.
Yeah, hurts the optics. And if you lose this game, or if any game for Oregon, and especially this one since it's Boise State, no disrespect, but
it's like A tier, B tier kind of thing.
Yeah, A tier, B tier. So I said high risk, low reward, basically.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
beautifully said.
That's a good way to put it because they've played before. A few years ago when they had Ash and Jenny,
September of 2024.
They made the playoffs. That game went to overtime. Oregon barely came out alive in that game. It was a great game. Obviously, both those teams ended up making the postseason.
Game almost went to overtime. 37-34. Right? Yeah.
You know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, you see what I'm saying. Boise State is one of the best Group of 5 programs of all time. They're always consistently competitive, and it's very, very tough matchup for Oregon to open up.
Yeah, like you mentioned, especially in the 2024 season with Ash and Genty, it felt like they couldn't be stopped. They won every single game in the regular season besides that game against Oregon. Like you said, it was a close game, 37-34, even with all the talent that Oregon has. I don't know that this game is going to be quite as close, given the fact that they just don't have as much star power as they did before, right? Ash and Genty was a powerhouse, and he's doing his thing in the NFL now. Boise State moving up to the Pac-12, though. It's going to be exciting to see Oregon's former conference now in the Big Ten. So there's a little bit of a thing there, but it's at home for Oregon. I don't really see Boise State putting up much of a fight, but definitely one of the games that I'm going to be watching during week 0. How about you?
An interesting one, but another interesting, Baylor and Auburn. This one's going to be played at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Auburn won this game last year 38-24, and some interesting things for Auburn. Alex Golesh coming in from South Florida, Byron Brown Jr. also coming in from South Florida, two very high-powered offensive minds. And then for Baylor, bringing in DJ Lagway from Florida in the transfer portal. They restructured the offensive line. Both teams looking to bounce back, and we'll see what happens in this one. But college football is near. UCF is near. They play Bethune-Cookman to open the season on September 3rd. They announced the Space Games October 3rd versus Baylor. And we'll be back to talk about it all next season.
I mean, I can't wait. I can't wait to do it all again with you next season on Nighttime. Thank you to our guests for coming on. Thank you for everybody who's helped produce the show and make it so great throughout the course of the season. But we will see you next semester.